This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Oh, I forgot. You're broken. I don't want to play with you anymore.
Toy Story 2 is a film that appears to be all about Woody breaking. His arm takes a rip at the beginning of the film, for which he is placed on a shelf feeling totally discarded and having nightmares about Andy abandoning him. The core of this story builds out of this point when the prospector offers Woody the chance of adoration and immortality, to be preserved forever in perfect condition, without any danger of rips and tears, without which he himself argues,
"You'll all be ruined, forgotten, spending eternity rotting in some landfill."
What's interesting though is that this all starts before Woody's arm gets ripped. It starts with Woody already in a state of alarm because his hat is missing. He's worried if he doesn't have it, Andy won't want to take him to cowboy camp. He will be left behind because without his hat, Woody is imperfect. And Bo points out to him, right at the start of this film, that Andy will want to play with a toy he loves, with or without their hat, whether they're perfect or not, because Andy loves him, which feels like the core lesson in this entire film, the thing Woody is being told here but not yet ready to believe.
The boy who wrote that would take you to camp with or without your hat.
Because when he is then ripped and does get put on the shelf, he fears that proves Bo wrong. When I am revealed to be imperfect, it will devalue me in Andy's eyes. I will be rendered worthless and unwanted and unlovable. Is that true? No. Of course not. The second Andy returns from camp, the first thing he does is go to the shelf where Woody was. And when he finds him, he immediately starts playing, despite Woody's ripped arm. That's pretty important, by the way. It's only after that, the next day, that Andy fixes Woody's arm, and sure, he does admit,
Glad I decided not to take him to camp. His whole arm might have come off.
but when we've also just seen him play with Woody despite the rip, I think the fear here has more to do with his arm going missing while he's away, and wanting to keep Woody somewhere safe as a result, wanting to feel he can care for Woody, rather than not wanting to take Woody because his imperfection devalues him in Andy's eyes. Woody would still matter though, with or without his hat, with or without his arm. And this is of course the total reverse of Al's attitude in this film. Al does need Woody to be perfect in order for him to have value. When he finds Woody in the car boot sale, the rip in his arm, okay, Al still wants him in spite of that, but only under the proviso that the rip can be fixed.
Little rip, fixable.
Only when it is fixed will Woody have value, and if it was something unfixable, it would be a huge problem because then he couldn't sell him to the museum in Japan, or even if he could, it'd be for a lot less. Woody missing his arm would absolutely devalue Woody completely in Al's eyes. He can't be accepted regardless of his hat, regardless of his arm. The arm is essential, the hat is essential.
Oh, if only you had your hand-stitched polyvinyl.
And the reason this is also important is because what we then have here, outside of our main characters, just in the background world of these human characters in the story, in them we see a really interesting conflict, not just between two ways of making use of toys, but between two types of inherent care, I suppose we should say, love versus adoration. Yep, you're damn right this video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform for building and growing your website and online business. It's not just that everything is all in one place either. Securing the domain, designing the site, promoting and getting paid. It's also that it's very easy to use. That's what impressed me the most when I first used it. Add elements, drag and resize everything so smoothly on this grid. Designed to help you keep things aligned properly, change the colors, add pictures, text, all the fancy stuff you might need. All this footage was screen recorded from the moment I first signed up to Squarespace, and then everything I did in the first 30 minutes of messing about with it. I didn't look at a single tutorial, I didn't even need to, it's just intuitive. And okay, I'm not yet ready to unleash my website onto the world because I'm still putting together all the creative writing stuff I want to sell here, and whilst I do currently provide editing services to people who reach out to me, I don't want to start promoting it just yet, but soon you're going to have a website of mine to look out for, and it's going to look very sleek. It's already pretty sleek. Look how easily I can make a contact form or start putting together a shop page. If you want the best domain at an all-inclusive price, if you want integrated SEO tools, if you want a giant scrolling list of all the things Squarespace offer, then click the link in the description or the pinned comment for a free trial to Squarespace. And if it suits you nicely, then use the code MyLittleThoughtTree to get 10% off purchasing your first domain or website, Squarespace. Adoration is where you are hailed as perfect, and you get to feel perfect by many people, or if not perfect, certainly idealised. The kind of glory I think barely any of us have a clue what it feels like, however, none of it really hits your heart. This is just the kind of thing that taps your ego a bit. It's not a form of value built out of connection and empathy, just that idealisation. And even more so, all of it depends on you continuing to live up to that image they've created. The second you appear lesser than the adoration is the second it starts to fade. To be adored, you then have a pressure to remain perfect, to guard against your imperfections, that the ego then works to defend you from, because I mean, all of us deep down feel less than perfect. All of us know we are flawed, and sometimes we even feel broken inside. That's the inner fear, that's the real fear. And it is the reason both Woody worries so much that Andy will discard him, even when it seems highly unlikely he would do that. And secondly, why Woody is so tempted by the prospect of the museum in the first place. Because it would defend him from that deeper inner fear, the one that says, I am flawed, I am unlovable deep down. One day I will be discarded. It's not that this rip in my arm or the lack of my hat makes me flawed. It's that deep down I already feel like I am, and these things just reveal it to the world, make it noticeable to Andy, this thing I've been trying to mask. So the museum offers him the chance to mask that, not to be perfect, but to appear perfect, to appear forever undamaged and preserved and having a place in the world. It also then offers you the safety net of never being rejected, which is a point we will come back to, because it's something set against Andy's love in this film. It's Andy's love that proves to be unconditional, no matter how imperfect the toys are. He plays with Woody despite the rip, he would love Woody without his hat, I'm sure of that. Even Wheezy forgotten on the shelf. Andy wasn't done with him either. His squeaker broke and he was put on the shelf temporarily because his mum promised she was going to take him and fix his squeaker. But Andy wasn't done with him, and I doubt he wanted Wheezy to be sold, squeaker or not. And now that he's been forgotten and she finds him again, she just tries to sell him in a car boot sale, and I very much doubt Andy would have wanted that at all. How many of you as kids stopped loving any of your toys the second a part of them broke? At the end of the film, Wheezy does become part of the group again, and sure, he does get his squeaker fixed. In a way, I think it would have been a stronger message if he hadn't been, and had still been loved anyway. But crucially, it is the toys that fix him. It's them happening to find a squeaker in the toy box, and they do it themselves to help Wheezy feel better, not because his value to Andy depends on it. I should probably say as well, so it doesn't create confusion, that all of, or well, most of the things we've said could of course be related to the idea of disabilities. It would be very valid to interpret the film in that lens, and if we did, I think there are a few criticisms we could be making, but just for context, I've avoided making that comparison directly this video, because I don't necessarily think that's what it's about. I don't think the allegory lines up perfectly, and also because I want to focus on the wider point about our fear that love is never unconditional. So I leave the rest to you in the comments. I just thought I should mention that. You know, one of the powerful things about genuine love is that it comes from people who know you're flawed, know you're imperfect, and yet love you anyway. No one's kidding themselves there the way they do with, like, infatuation, for example. You know, my fiancée Kirsty knows I snore very loudly. She knows I have a tendency to be really grumpy some days. She knows there are a lot of things I do that can get on her nerves, or that it can be frustrating how much time I spend working, or there's the fact I've recently started to develop a beer belly, or I get polyps in my nose, or one of my eyes I think looks a bit weird. Not weird, just quite asymmetrical compared to the other one. She knows all this stuff, and she even takes the piss out of half of it, and yet loves me all the same, and in a way, even more, sometimes because of these things. And it's out of that experience, being loved not just despite, but often because of my imperfections, that I get to truly feel wanted and loved and like I really have value. And in that sense, are they even imperfections at all? Sometimes there's even genuine positives in them that you just didn't acknowledge at the time. Adoration doesn't give you that feeling because it's more like kidding yourself. It never gets rid of the deeper fear about your own imperfection because it is just covering it up. It can never speak to it the way that love can. And so you do just get stuck eternally defending yourself against a fear that could be eased with deeper connection. Woody doesn't need a museum, he doesn't need a hat, he doesn't even exactly need his arm. He just needs to know that he is lovable. And in a way, we need our imperfections for that. Without them, I think we would never truly feel loved. And maybe then never truly love ourselves either. And one day, Woody will probably be broken again. Or if we relate this to humanity, then so will I. You know, I will grow old and grey, maybe a bit ugly, my joints have already started clicking, maybe I'll get a gammy leg, or my teeth will fall out, and there'll obviously be wrinkles and incontinence at some point, and I'll turn senile. I don't know exactly what, but inevitably I will age and then die, and yet still be loved just the same. And this is then kind of the most interesting thing about Toy Story 2, actually. It's out of this that we realise Andy doesn't matter at all. Not really. You might have noticed I worded that like Kirsty will undoubtedly love me forever after, and we'll both live into a ripe old age together where nothing at all ever goes wrong. Because that's the counter-argument to all the fear in this film, right? That's the counter-argument to what the prospector warns. He says you won't be loved for who you are, nor will it last. Kids will only want you while you seem cool, and then their interest will wane, and then they'll grow up and move away and won't care. The counter-argument to that should be that no, that won't happen. The love I share is different, it's pure, it's eternal. But that isn't what the film says. His love is unconditional, and yet he might change as a person, the world might change, and he might, and in fact will, move on from them. I think both of those things can be true at the same time. Love that's unconditional and yet also not everlasting. And for that, the prospector argues that he should forget Andy. So does Jessie. They say Andy will reject Woody one day. If he comes to Japan, though, he can be protected from that rejection forever. And it is a pretty compelling case in a lot of ways, but Woody's argument against it isn't that, no, that's not going to happen to me, Andy's different, he's perfect, he's going to love me forever. No, it's that Andy probably will grow up and move on from Woody one day, but that I don't want to miss seeing that happen.
You're right, Prospector, I can't stop Andy from growing up. But I wouldn't miss it for the world.
There are 2 points I tear up in this film. One is Jessie's montage, obviously, and this line. It changes so much in the movie. The thing about being loved unconditionally is that we get to internalise that feeling. So that even if that person did eventually fall out of love, or they died, or anything else that might happen causing you to lose them, you've still hopefully internalised the feeling to such a level that you can recognise, even if they're not still here expressing that feeling for you, that you are a lovable person, that you are capable of being loved. Therefore, not only might I be capable of finding love again, but I also have inherent value. I can love myself too. I matter, you know? And Woody grew a lot in the first film. He was terrified there that Buzz was going to replace him in Andy's heart, and he had to learn, no, Andy can love them both. But still, Woody ended that film kind of dependent on Andy's love for his own self-worth, you know? This time, he reaches the end of the film, and whether or not Andy continues to love him isn't the point. It's obviously a good thing, but it isn't his inherent purpose. He will watch Andy grow up, not now out of fear and worry about being discarded the way Jessie felt, but out of pride in a way, joy to have the fun while he can, and then be proud to see the person Andy will become without him. To be proud to see Andy reach a point where he doesn't need Woody, which is fulfilling, also very sad, also leaves the question of what comes next, but is fulfilling. And in terms of what does come next, well, in the third film it's starting all over again with a new kid, although I have to admit I've only seen the third film once when it first came out, and I was a bit drunk at the time. I can't remember it that well. I've never seen the fourth film. I will watch both of them soon. But in terms of what Toy Story 2 is saying about what comes next, it's kind of saying, well, whatever happens, when it all ends, Woody will have Buzz and all of the other toys.
It'll be fun while it lasts. Besides, when it all ends, I'll have old Buzz Lightyear to keep me company.
So he no longer depends on Andy's approval and affection, and no longer exists solely to please him. He is just happy now to be who he is, and to have a community and friends to be around, and Andy for now. Maybe I've not worded that the best. Being there for Andy is still a purpose to him, a very good, important one, but not the total sum of his existence anymore. And it's in realising that Woody can be motivated to support Andy, not out of fear so much, but out of love. I think this is the moment he really starts to appreciate Andy for who he is, rather than just what he gives to Woody and to the other toys, and that's really why he decides to go back to Andy. I think that's special. In a way, it means Woody has transformed from someone who has been like a child into an adult. Because, yeah, a child does depend on your approval, needs the reassurance that you still love them even if they have another sibling appear, or even if you do something bad in certain moments, or you upset them, or I suppose in this example that you suffer an injury. You still need the reassurance you are loved the same, and it's out of being repeatedly shown that you start to internalise the feeling, form a more secure attachment, and hopefully head into the world as a more well-rounded adult, who can then almost appear like a parent to Andy now, which is a little bit weird, but that is the feeling I get. Proud to see him grow and move on. And I really love how that change happens in this film, how it goes from just a conflict between the fear of Andy rejecting you versus the hope that he will never reject you, into the realisation that it kind of doesn't matter either way, that's not the point. And I think it's out of that realisation that Woody is really able to convince Jessie to come along with him. You know, Andy's mum is probably right.
Boys don't last forever.
The prospector is probably eventually right.
Do you really think Andy is going to take you to college? Or on his honeymoon?
But it would still be worth it to have not just been loved, but to experience the idea that you are lovable and you do have value, as all of us are. It's just sometimes it can take a lot for us to really trust that. Jessie could easily have been seen as the villain in this film, only she did dare to trust at the end, and the prospector didn't. But we'll talk more about Jessie and the prospector in my next video. I'm going to do another one that will follow on from this one, stay tuned for that. Comment your thoughts, good or bad. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe, maybe even support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee, but otherwise, hopefully see you next time. And as ever, a special thank you goes to Flying Spider, Kellyanne Davidson, Luke Orr, Michael Gallagher, Benry, Joshua C. Follier, and Chad Bramwell. Thank you.